Hi, welcome to the Maintain Me Denver Senior Resource Channel. I'm Morgan Jenkins. I'm the director at Maintain Me.
And I'm Desiree. I'm a transitional coordinator.
Thanks for joining us today. This is our YouTube channel, so we definitely regularly post things. We like to hear from our audience too. Is there some question that you have that you want us to answer? Hit subscribe. You'll see the button down below. All of our contact information is there. We want to hear from you. We do love doing these YouTube videos, but we do them to be a resource for our audience. So let's hear it. And today we are going to talk about social capital. So if you don't know what social capital is, it's the value derived from positive connections between people. So maybe that's not a word you use in your vocabulary every day, social capital, but it's a really important word for everyone's lives, no matter what age. But Desiree, tell us, why is social capital so important?
Well, for a number of reasons, to be honest with you, but in your golden years, it's most important so that you know you have people you can count on and rely on for your time of need, whether that's a ride to the doctors when your car's broken down, somebody to bring you soup when you're not feeling well, or vice versa, you being that person. To help your neighbor out or help a friend out when their time comes that they need help. It's so important to start these connections early on, whether it's friends, neighbors, family, church, friends as well. It's just very important to start these connections early because you just never know when you're going to need that resource and that extra support.
Great points. I think in the work that we do with Maintain Me, so often we meet people who are isolated. Perhaps a spouse has already passed before you, or maybe you have decided not to have children, and maybe your loved ones have since passed away. It does not happen overnight for someone to become isolated. Isolation is a conditioning, it's a programming. As much as you can program yourself or condition yourself to have good social capital, to be ready and willing and energetically enabled to show up for the people that are in your life and hold those bonds closely. Just like, as Desiree said, you never know when you're going to need somebody, but also you never know when somebody's going to need you. So that's awesome. So I guess that is kind of answering the question, how does it apply for older adults? Why don't you start us off on how to increase your social capital? How do you get more social capital? It's not just something you can go to the bank for.
No, it's not. And it's really in the term social capital. You got to be social. You got to put yourself out there. You got to make those connections. You got to cultivate those friendships. And it does take time. It doesn't happen overnight, and it can be exhausting. It can be tiring, especially when you're just not in the mood to do it. It's, going to those birthday parties, those anniversary parties, those retirement parties, even though you may not feel like leaving your house that day. It's making those connections, even when you think it doesn't matter. Somebody asks you, hey, do you want to go to the store with me and look at some yarn? That's saying yes and going with that person to go look at yarn at the store. It's so important to, figure out where your support system lies, and that can be church, that can be, a quilting club, it can be the YMCA, it can be anywhere. So don't discount, meeting somebody at the grocery store and building that connection because you realize they live 2 houses down from you.
Yeah, neighborly connections are really strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something in the age of technology where we have both increased our connections, but we've also decreased our personal connections. And so a lot of times you have our older clients don't want to pay their bills online. And maybe you can relate to this because you enjoy going to the bank because there are some checkers there or some tellers there that you learned about their children or their children's graduation, or that little connection that you have. It's also called rapport that you can make with that person when you go in person. It's the same as talking to the person who's checking your groceries out at the grocery store or the pharmacist. These are all little connections that go towards a bigger, broader network or net of connections around you. And like Desiree is saying, it's so important to feed those connections. And you made a really great point. Somebody may invite you to something and it may seem very minor to you, such as maybe a child or a grandchild's birthday party. But when you walk through that door and that person that invited you sees you and their face lights up, you are winning the social connection gold mine there. You have showed up for that person at a time when it's important, and you can more than likely count on that person to help you in a time of need too. And it's important to diversify and not just have one or two people that you're close with, because maybe something happens to two of you at the same time and you need to reach out to a broader network. So social capital, everybody needs it. Even if you think you're someone who likes to be alone, social capital does not exclude you. The more time that you spend thinking or putting your energy into being alone, your connections on the outside are fading away. And this affects the way that our brains work too. Those areas in our brain that are wired for connectivity start to go to sleep when you don't use them.
Yeah, some people have, coincided with what happens to the brain when you smoke, what happens when you isolate, to the brain as well. It's pretty similar, and that's scary. That's scary to think.
It is scary to think that even just having friendships or being around people can have an effect on our overall health, not just our day-to-day happiness. But that's another misconception, is that day-to-day happiness and overall health are two separate things. They are connected. They are one and the same. It's very hard to have one and not have the other. And this is why we thought it was important to talk about social capital today.
Yes. So get out there, make those connections, make those friendships, and cultivate them. Push yourself outside your comfort zone. And you'll be amazed at, what comes back to you in return. Nothing but positivity.
And nothing but positivity going out.
Yes.
Thanks for watching today. Until next time, signing off.